Salutations everyone, it is Matty here today and welcome to my review for Ori and the Will of the Wisps. I've been playing this bad boy since Friday, March 6th, thanks to a review copy provided by Microsoft themselves, so a big thank you to them. Now I was a huge fan of Ori and the Blind Forest. It's easily one of my favorite exclusives on the Xbox One. Ori himself is adorable, the world was vibrant and beautiful just like in its sequel, and the platforming was tight. So as a notorious hater for Metroidvania games, Ori was one of the rare exceptions for that genre. Can the sequel, priced at $29.99 US, releasing on March 11th and being on Game Pass day one, crack that list as well? Well, we're gonna find out right now, starting off with the story. The endearing intro to Ori and the Will of the Wisps really sets the tone for the rest of the tale. Ku is born into the world as you see Ori and some of his friends from the previous entry helping the cute little fella out. Immediately, I noted that the main plot is conveyed through animation, dramatic shifts in music, with the occasional text accompanied by a voice speaking in an ancient tongue. This was easily one of Ori's greatest strengths, since it's a subliminal silence that speaks volumes and will aid the entire adventure. Eventually, Ku and Ori are separated by a storm, and Ori is determined to seek out his friend. As the world establishes itself, you learn the truths of Niwen, where the light in this world went, and an overarching narrative begins to form. You see, these details become important when you dig into the themes of Ori and the Will of the Wisps: family, love, friendship, sacrifice, hope, darkness, light, determination, and such. They all permeate in this tale, and none of them are exactly original, and the way the story rolls out can be seen coming, but it's the execution of events that developer Moon Studios really hones in on. I gotta say, man, kudos to the animators, because there are some moments that, oh my god, hit you so hard. It's like a Pixar movie for me. I always go in thinking, okay, I know they're gonna try to yank at my heartstrings, maybe some nostalgia, there's gonna be a cliche combined with some charming animation, and I swear, I'm not gonna cry this time. Yet I always do. And while I do normally like to save sound for its own category, I want to tie it into the story section here because it's arguably more key in delivering moments than anything else happening in the game, whether it's a melancholy track playing over as Ori encounters trying times. The beautiful tune that plays whilst in the glades. Or the pure silence that I was alluding to earlier as Ori is stalked by Shriek. Like any good game, the music brings Ori's biggest moments to a new level, but given that it's at the forefront since there aren't any vocal performances going on, I believe it deserves extra credit for accomplishing what it needed to. By the end of my 9-hour tale, I was feeling all kinds of emotions, be it happiness, sadness, and so on, but ultimately, I was really satisfied, and that's saying something because I encountered a lot of gameplay hitches I'm about to get into. Before I climb into that, I do want to make sure people know after I completed the 9-hour story that I checked real quickly to see if there's a new game plus, which there is not. So just know you're going to have to reload your old save file right before the final boss to continue rounding up collectibles and whatnot. Okay, so I mentioned gameplay hitches. Yes, the gameplay of Ori and the Will of the Wisps is the primary reason it's held back from true greatness in my eyes. Like, I mean an instant Game of the Year contender, and while it's my favorite game of the year thus far, I haven't played that much. I'd love to give you an elaborate description of my experience on a technical front, but I'm just gonna let the gameplay do the talking for a rare moment. frame rate dips and constant hitches in the first 3 hours, emphasis on first 3 hours of my experience, really left me flustered. I loved exploring this beautiful world that is quite literally art in motion, and the amount of incredible scenes they set up blew my mind. I mean, it is such a damn good looking game, but it's so hard to get absorbed off the rip when the game constantly locks up like this. Sometimes I would get stuck in the environment. Sometimes it was the background doing this, the occasional background looking rough or pixelated. There was just so many tech things going on. And as someone who's normally lenient on the tech, especially in the review period where sometimes we don't have the day one patch to test out, so it can really impact the play I'm having versus what you're going through as a consumer, this absolutely still soured my experience. On top of that, Ori's larger focus on combat proved to be cumbersome at times. Chaotic combat sessions not only triggered some of the aforementioned frame drops, but also felt like a less tight Hollow Knight. Given that this game splashes a lot of color everywhere, it's no surprise that each time an attack connects, there's a huge flash with particle effects. While effective against larger bosses in communicating to the player that an attack was landed, the same cannot be said for smaller mob enemies. Often there were times I lost my enemy in the chaos of effects and things happening on the screen, which never became frustrating but really led to deaths that were out of my hands. Fortunately, my complaints overall for the game end there, so just know the rest of this video will be endless praise, so buckle in. As I mentioned, combat is seeing a larger focus here. That means there's tons of abilities and spirit shards to kit Ori out with. Abilities feature things like Spike, where you can throw a literal energy spike at people, smashing them, sentries that'll attack for you, throwing stars, setting enemies on fire, and so on. While I didn't feel compelled to experiment, which you could argue the systems themselves failed, I personally thought they were just good options to have for the player to tinker with to accommodate different playstyles. For me, I was happy with the Spirit Arc, which is actually a bow and arrow that's not only useful for traversal, but can also let you poke enemies from a distance and sort of engage with them before they attack you, and then you can get close with your Spirit Edge, which is more of a melee weapon. On the other hand, Spirit Shards are what I'd consider your standard perks slash buffs. You can equip 3 at a time, and some collectibles later on will allow for more to be equipped down the line. These Spirit Shards are things such as Reckless, which allows Ori to deal 15% more damage, but also take 15% more damage. There's also Resilience, which makes you 10% more resistant to damage. Now, given that these are upgradable and you can combine them, I can have Ori deal 15% more damage, equip Resilience on top of that. Now he's only taking 5% more damage because of how Resilience manages to balance out Reckless. So you can see how there's a little bit of building here that engages the player, and you can upgrade all of these Spirit Shards using little orange orbs collected around the world as you explore. Niwen, the setting for Will o' the Wisps, is actually way bigger than I ever expected. Even better, it's loaded with content, and good content at that. Whether it be collectibles, trials to test yourself in, side quests, investigating rumors, and so on, you'll be plenty busy. Yes, you actually heard me correctly, by the way. There are side quests in this game, which was the last thing I ever expected, and some of them are black-hearted. I don't want to spoil them because some can be very, I don't want to say thoughtless, but they're more so like to the breeze. There are some gems in here though, really good side quests that kind of surprised me and helped build the world. There are also projects you can complete by turning in ore, which is found around the world. This will enable you to explore places you haven't been to yet, and also help provide homes to the Moki, who are natives to this island. There are also mysterious seeds that you can find that alter the world, allowing you to rebuild Niwen. None of this is mandatory, but I oddly felt compelled to keep going, to keep searching, partially because the world is so beautiful, but also the way these creatures are animated just made me care so much because they're so cute. Damn it, I broke my composure. Okay, while the size of the map can be intimidating, it was well designed with fast travel points and visual information being relayed to the player, such as signs peppered around the world telling you what direction you were heading in and into what region you were going. I normally just can't stand getting lost in a Metroidvania game, so I was extremely pleased that the game managed to keep me in the loop while also encouraging exploring off the beaten path. Most times, I didn't even check my map when going around this game. I just went, man, and I got there when I got there. When I did have to use my map, it was really useful. There were dots that gradually faded out to indicate where I've been and where I currently am. There was a legend that told me what I was looking at But more impressively was that the HUD was non-intrusive, so as I explored the world, it had all the screen covered in beautiful art, and that's exactly what I wanted. What I haven't discussed yet is Ori's traversal. Now I'm about to make a bold comparison, but just hear me out. Going from point A to point B in this game is as fun as Spider-Man PS4. The reason being is, just like Spider-Man, to move is to have fun in my book with these games. Each region in the world varies, so you'll have to tackle it in a quick thinking yet engaging manner, whether it be grappling, dashing, double jumping, triple if you get an unlock, avoiding traps and enemies, dashing underwater, burrowing in the sands and snow, bashing off enemies to reach newer heights, bubbles to both bounce and rejuvenate your breath meter, or gliding with a feather. The options feel limitless in approach, and with spot-on platforming, I can't begin to describe how great it feels, how empowering it feels to just explore the world. The culmination of mechanics, sheer beauty on display, and silky smooth animations, plus environments reacting to Ori's actions, such as giving way when you landed on them, pulled me in more once those technical issues started to subside deeper into my playthrough. One standout was in the Wellspring. The mills here have lied dormant for a while, and part of the story is to activate them. As you activate these mills, they also become a huge part of traversing the locale. This natural blending of storytelling and platforming is where Ori ends up at its best. And where there's good platforming in this series, the tried and true chase sequences are back yet again. While remaining as some of the game's more epic moments, these felt a bit easier this time around compared to the Blind Forest, and don't require what I felt was the perfection of that entry. For some, that's good. For some, not so good. I personally fondly remember raging at my lack of skill during these escape sections, but that's just me. A lot of the game's major moments are punctuated by boss fights, and I can see these being hit or miss for a lot of gamers. You see, bosses have multiple phases and force usage of your full kit, which I liked, but they also demand mastery of a specific one learned in the respective area. So for example, at the Luma pools, you're going to learn the underwater dash, which is essential to the accompanied boss fight for that area. I found the bosses to provide a reasonable challenge on the normal difficulty without making me feel like I was endlessly smacking away only to whittle their health bar ever so slightly. They have tons of different attacks and ways to engage you, and their patterns are easy to memorize and are telegraphed properly to the player so you can react in time without feeling too cheesed. That said, sometimes it was difficult to see when a boss in the background was attacking and entering the foreground. It's a problem with 2D games, and it is prevalent here, so sometimes that led to the occasional weird death. Like I mentioned earlier, it wasn't rage-inducing, but it was one of those moments where I was like, wait, what just hit me? Now with that, let's get into my verdict. So I imagine for some of you who saw the gameplay section where my frames were dropping, Matty, how could you be so emphatically positive about this game? To me, I viewed it as a testament to how good the rest of the package was. Fortunately, I learned that resetting the application made it so that Ori and the Will of the Wisps ran a lot better for me. Like no hitches, no hiccups, everything was fine. Was that a pain in the ass? Absolutely. But as I thought more about the game when I completed it, and I realized that I fondly remembered the music, the world, I wanted to go back, I wanted to play, I just wanted to traverse, I wanted to engage with that story once again. It stuck with me in a way, and I didn't think of those tech issues. And I also took a step back once more and thought, well, I'm playing the version that doesn't have a patch in it at all. And I was informed that there will be a day one patch that's going to alleviate most of my problems. So while I had a soured experience in a manner of speaking, I liked so much of what Ori had, I was willing to overlook the performance issues I encountered. And I gotta say, man, this game is awesome. It was a real treat to go through. It made me feel things, it was fun to play, and the animation on display along with the art is just something that not many other developers can do. So for me personally, if you're a Game Pass subscriber, this is an easy download. If you got 30 bucks lying around and you want to get a great game, you should spend it here. And while there will be stuff for you to go back and do, just know that after my 9 hours, I had about 70% overall completion. Trials were still left on the map, so there's still stuff to do, but it's not this overwhelming crazy amount, which I think for some gamers is good. Some of us don't have time for the 80-hour epic open world games. Some of us are looking for a more condensed experience with Ori. So if you have disposable income and 12 hours of your time isn't such a bad idea for 30 bucks, this is a great place to spend it. If you're looking for a condensed experience that tells a wonderful tale with all the beautiful art, this is your game, and I can't recommend it enough. So I hope you guys enjoyed my review for Ori and the Will of the Wisps. I'm done saying that name because I'm tired of the pss, but I hope you guys enjoyed, and let me know what you think of Ori in the comments down below. Really looking forward to reading what people have to say about this game. Be sure to follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram, and big thank you to all the patrons who continue to support my content here and make review copies like these possible through your belief in my community. I really appreciate it, and we'll talk soon. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.